Did you know that your brain's right hemisphere acts as a natural devil's advocate, challenging beliefs and sparking self-discovery to make persuasion more effective? Hello, action taker. Welcome to Live Blissed Out, a podcast where I have inspirational and informational conversations with business owners and subject matter experts to help you get the scoop on a variety of topics. Tired of hesitating or making decisions without having the big picture? Want to be in the know? Then this is the place to go. I'm your host, Marissa Houston, helping you achieve bliss through awareness and action. So let's get to it. Ivette Gonzalez Flower is the founder of iFlower Solutions, where she specializes in cultivating resilience and overcoming self-doubt in sales and leadership executives. With a 20-year career as a top 5% sales performer in the pharmaceutical and trade show industries, Ivette empowers leaders to enhance their well-being, strengthen relationships, and boost work performance, resulting in a 30% increase in sales. If you're ready to dive deeper into her expertise, here's how you can stay connected with Ivette. She hosts virtual workshops throughout the year, packed with actionable strategies for sales professionals and leaders. Check the show notes for more details and upcoming dates. Sign up to receive free resources, event updates, and tips designed to help you level up your leadership and sales game at iflowersolutions.com/opt-in. We're so excited to see how you apply what you've learned from Ivette. The information, opinions, and recommendations presented in this podcast are for general information only, and any reliance on the information provided in this podcast is done at your own risk. This podcast should not be considered professional advice. Ivette, welcome back to the podcast. So excited that you're here today.
Well, thank you for inviting me back.
This is going to be fun. We had so much fun the last time. Why not do it again?
Yes, I agree.
Today, the conversation is going to be something I'm truly excited about covering with you, and it has to do with the importance of persuasion, and particularly for leaders and sales executives. We talked about this before, people have different perceptions on that word and what it really means and how we can apply it in a way that will be fruitful for us. Why don't you set the stage and talk a little bit about why you think this is an important topic to cover and how it can help our listeners?
If the idea of persuasion strikes a chord in you, a negative one, just listen up because we're going to flip that around a little bit. So if you think about the definition of persuasion, it is the action or fact of convincing somebody to do or believe in something. Usually it's to do or believe in something that kind of benefits us, right? I think the negative connotation comes from when we say that we're doing it for ourselves instead of making it about them. And this is where the art of persuasion with empathy is how we can turn that conversation to be beneficial for them. And then, of course, hopefully beneficial for you.
Maybe we can use an example. For example, if I were trying to persuade you towards a particular action, let's say, I would want to look at it from the angle of, is this beneficial for you? I happen to know that this particular thing is something you probably should know about because I think it's going to, in the long run, be something that you can benefit from. And therefore, I feel compelled to persuade you in that direction, but I'm doing it from a place of caring about you rather than for my own personal benefit. Is that along the lines of what you're saying?
That's exactly it. It's going to be more of a personal thing than a business thing, just because everyone can relate to this. So, Marissa, let's say I wanted to persuade you to meet for coffee near a place that I really like. And let's just say it's Starbucks. And you want to go to your favorite place. What's the name of your favorite coffee place?
To be honest, I don't even have a favorite because when I hear about one, I say, hey, I've heard there's this new coffee place and it's nearby. Let's go check it out. So it's one of those things where I'd like more of that experimentation and excitement of trying something new. So let's just assume I found a new coffee place and I really want to go there.
Yes. In that way that you have stated that, now I understand you. You want a new experience. You want to try something new. So let's just say you say Starbucks, but it's the one near you, and I say Starbucks because it's the one near me. So as I start to find out about the need, it's called the felt need for a reason. Why is this important to you? Why do you want to go there? Then expand a little bit on that experience that you want or the newness.
Yeah, so I'm always curious as to whether or not they have an offering that the other place doesn't have. And there's no way for me to find out unless I go check it out. So for me, it's the excitement of, maybe they have a new coffee flavor I haven't tried. Or maybe they have organic coffee that this other place doesn't have. Or maybe a specific drink that I never even heard of that might be interesting. So it's just that experimentation, I think, is what really intrigues me.
Okay. So understanding that about you, let's say I did not know that about you, I would still try it. But the one closer to me, it's got this great ambiance and it's got, a little nook that we could sit by the fireplace. And I'm trying to persuade you to come closer to me because I like this one. Because for me, I like the idea of being in this secluded little area so we can both talk and be by the fire because that's important to me. So once I ask you the questions, why is this important to you? And I keep asking that and keep narrowing down. I understand it's more of an experience. It's something about the newness. And now for me that I really like this place because we can talk better. There's not the hustle and bustle of a very busy place. So now we both understand each other's aspirations. And it doesn't mean that now I win, you lose, we're going to mine. It means maybe there's a third option out there that we could then decide on that has that new experience for you, but that warm and cozy feeling for me. And it could be Joe Schmo coffee.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And that's the thing is it kind of forces you to ask questions and understand where somebody's coming from as opposed to what we tend to fall on, which is, I know this is a good place. Let's do this. It puts you in a situation where you're more open-minded and you really want to understand the other person too.
And you are connecting with them in an emotional level, which gets us to that emotional connection of being in our right side of the brain versus the left side of the brain. We try to persuade with the left side. We say analytical things. We think about facts. We think about figures. We think about that. That's not really going to persuade someone. They have to be persuaded with you activating the other part of their brain.
That's a really good point. I think about this a lot. You will say something because you don't want to hurt somebody else's feelings. But at the same time, you might have these objections about something that they bring up. So let's use, again, an example, because I think our listeners can really relate when we use real life situations. So let's say you get invited to a party and you want to go to this party. There's a lot of people there and you even like the location. Everything checks the boxes. But there's one problem. It's at night. And you're not comfortable driving at night for whatever reason. It's just your thing. You don't like going to events that happen at nighttime. And then you are concerned that means that I had to rely on somebody to take me, or that means I have to maybe get an Uber or do something that I'm not comfortable doing. And therefore, you are hesitant. And if you're not honest, you don't bring that objection up to that individual. They make a conclusion and they'll say, well, Ivette doesn't like to go to parties or will not hang out with me. They might even take it the wrong way and think, wow, what an unsociable person this person is because they don't want to go to this party that I can't even understand why they wouldn't. It's an exciting party and all our friends are going to be there. Having that conversation is so important because then you can kind of help each other out and figure out, okay, then how do we overcome the objection?
Yes, that's when becoming curious, right? The curiosity piece to all this. So you're asking those questions to get to that. And in sales, the way to tie that back into it is understanding, let's say you've got this product. Let's go to trade shows since that was my world before this. And there are other companies out there that sell trade show exhibits. And as I'm talking to a prospect and I can try to understand to build this trust and this connection, and I could say to them, you might be thinking that our product is too expensive. And I say that because we've heard that all the time. It's not like I'm bringing up an objection that they're not already thinking because they've already done their homework. They're looking around. They know, oh, they're more expensive. You might be thinking that is more expensive when in reality, this product will save money in the long term because it's now module. The weight of it is less expensive. You're not having to spend as much money in shipping. When you have someone set it up now, it's much easier. It doesn't take as much time. When our competition takes 12 hours to set up, ours takes a fraction. So when you're bringing up that objection, even if you didn't hit it on the head, it makes them comfortable enough to say, yeah, that wasn't my concern. My concern is this. Or yes, that is my concern. You're bringing up the elephant in the room and not pretending it's going to go away if you don't bring it up.
Exactly, because then when you do that, you're being proactive. You're already telling them that you recognize some of the things that other people have said, and it may not necessarily apply to them, which is also why you want to then ask them, hey, it sounds to me like, this isn't important to you or you're hesitating in some way. Could you share with me what your thoughts are? What are you thinking? And how does this come across for you? Because once you start to really show interest and understand where they're coming from, it goes back to what you were talking about. You create trust. You connect with them. they in turn trust you because they know that you care.
Yes. And while you're having that building trust and connection, that's where that discovery call and the piece comes in to really understand them, understand how they use this product. You're getting all that already. And then we're moving to this part of addressing objections. So it's not something we lead with, but it's something that naturally comes up in conversation as you're moving them along.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, don't you think that there is something to be said about being able to present to them that you understand them? Like, I've been there, or I've seen this before, and here's what I've come across. Are you thinking the same thing? Or perhaps there's something you want to bring to the table that I haven't considered? Because then it also brings a little bit of humility to the conversation. And it's not just this, I'm the expert, I know everything, I'm going to solve all the problems, right?
Yes, that's also ignorant of you to think that you know all the answers, right? And that comes across very easily from the other end because you know your prospect has their guards up. The idea that you come across as bigger than, right? I'm going to save you. Even though you want to be seen as the expert, you certainly don't want to be seen as arrogant about the whole thing because that really does turn someone off. And that energy that you are non-verbally saying, or however it is that it comes across as arrogant, that is picked up very quickly by your prospect.
Absolutely. And the thing is that the humility comes into play, but it's also not assuming that you know what's important to them. Let's say that you were selling a product, and whatever this product is has all these wonderful features. And of course, they always tell you, talk about the benefits, not the features. But the features have a part to play, right? Because you may need that particular feature in order to take advantage of a benefit from it. So let's say I was selling you a sewing machine and you were going to learn how to sew for the very first time. Now, a sewing machine, they come in every price point and they have all kinds of different features. And each sewing machine, even though it does the same thing, they're created for different purposes, depending on the kind of sewing you're doing. Now, I could approach you and say, oh, well, this is the best sewing machine. You need to invest $5,000 because it has all the bells and whistles. This is what you need. But I never bothered to ask you, what kind of sewing do you plan to do? And what is your budget? And what is important to you? And then when you start to express all that to me, then I'm going to be able to say, you know what? Based on everything you just said, you don't need all that. This is what you need because it has X, Y, and Z. And as a beginner, that's really all you're going to need. That's 99% of everything. And you may at some point say, oh, I need the feature where it will auto cut my thread. But that's something that you can perhaps consider down the road as an upgrade if needed, but you can certainly perform all the functions without it. If at this point in time, that's something that you must have, then maybe it's this other machine that's going to serve you well. And so it's having that dialogue rather than approaching it as, I just know this machine is the best. It's got everything. This is what you need.
Yeah, and I would take that one step further. When we start to think about features and benefits, that is our left brain thinking. That's the analytical part, even though the benefits are tied into what is best for the client after they respond to those questions. What we want to do to tie in the right part of our brain where they know that emotionally we're making that connection is a story. So if you have a story as a salesperson or as a user yourself, you could say, you know, my parents passed away and I am making this beautiful quilt for them to remind me of our moments and our memories with just some keywords and phrases that help me to think about them. And I found that this machine was able to meet those needs pretty quickly. And here I am curled up by the fireplace with this really beautiful quilt. And now we've connected a story to those features and benefits that we were just talking about that are most important to the client. And now they see the story as this connection.
Oh my gosh. Now that you were saying that, Ivette, what about tying in their story? So then say to them, what kind of sewing do you want to do? And then they might say, well, I decided to get into it because my sister passed away. And now I feel like the only way I can really connect with her is by doing this. I want to take on that legacy. And therefore, here's what I'm looking for. And now you brought them into that story. Now you have something in common, and that humanity comes through and you can together make the decision. And it becomes this partnership rather than the salesperson versus the consumer.
Yeah. And do you see how the know, like, and trust factor quickly went through in that story? Sure, you know that they're knowledgeable. They know what they're doing to some extent. They don't know who you are and what you're looking for. We went out looking for a car for my daughter. We went to about 3 or 4 different dealerships. And I'm paying attention, very close attention. No one is asking me anything about why is it important that we get this car now. If they had asked, they would have known that my daughter's car was totaled by someone else. If they had asked me, what is the car going to be used for? Well, she goes to school and it's a good hour and a half drive. And I want her to have something that's sturdy and reliable and a high rating for safety so that when she's driving home, I don't have to worry about her driving in the snow. There was one person that kind of asked those types of questions and I felt more comfortable with her, but the other 3 did not. And had someone asked me that instead of, hey, look at the really cool tires. Look at the rims here. They're black rims. How cool is that? That wasn't important to us.
Yes. Don't you almost feel like they're not listening? They're just not getting you.
So they're on an agenda, and their agenda is to sell me a car or sell me a sewing machine. That's not the agenda that you want your prospect to feel, because if you want to be seen as the expert and as the trusted advisor quickly, then you've got to activate your part of the brain that shows that you have that emotional connection and not this, I got to make a sale before December 31st.
Exactly. And you know what? It even frees you up as the salesperson because you can just think of it as I'm making friends. I'm building a network of a community of people that are going to trust me. And when the time is right, they'll see it. They'll see that I truly care about helping them. And I know they have choices, but if they choose me, I know I'm going to take care of them. And if they don't, it's okay. Maybe it's not the right fit. But I think to your point, so many people are under pressure. And especially when they're reporting to somebody and they tell them, you've got to make X number of sales this month. But the irony of it all, Ivette, if you would agree with me, I don't know, I'd love your perspective, is it's so much easier to sell this way.
Yes, it definitely is. And this may take a little bit longer to feel comfortable doing it this way and practicing it so that it comes out more authentic. So as we were talking about, how do we build trust? How do we address objections? And how do we create this emotional connection? There's actually a really simple 6-step process. Number 1 is to understand and find out what their felt needs are. Why is this important? Why now? Why? Keep asking that question, why, in different ways. Number 2 is aspirations. To understand their bigger why. So you're understanding their need, number 1, then their aspiration, which is their big why. For me, it was the safety for my daughter in this car. Number 3 is the key message. What do you want them to feel, believe, and learn about you? We definitely want them to know, like, and trust us, but what do we want them to feel, believe, and learn about your product, about you, about how you're seen in the industry? Number 4 is state the objection. And do it in a positive way, right? It's called positive tension for a reason. We're trying to get them to think in a challenging way with asking a challenging question. So something like, you might think that this product is expensive, when in reality, then you insert the benefit to your service. And then you ask a question. And I loved how you said, does this apply to you? Is this important to you? And then number 5 is you spark an emotion. What do you want them to feel? Do you want them to be curious? Well, tell me more about that, Ivette. What do you mean by that? It's expensive now, but it's going to save me money in the long term?
Yeah, that's almost contradictory. So they'll be like, tell me more.
Yes, spark that emotion. And then you can spark a second emotion. And the second emotion would be to get to action. Really, so what emotion do you want them to feel so that they will take this laser-focused, timely action to work with you? I used to just assume that the client was ready to move to the next step. And I would say something like, would you like me to put together a timeline so we could all be on the same page and you don't have to worry about being stressed out with all the deadlines that are going to be quickly approaching? And some people will try and use this as, oh, well, there's a promotion that ends at the end of the month, or no, that's pressure. We don't want pressure. We want action. But we want it in a way where it feels like it's going to be beneficial to them and not us. So when you're presenting this framework, it's an idea and a solution that you're providing. And if you consider it, especially when you're in sales, that you are providing this as a gift, this is a gift to somebody, then you kind of take away the stress over the outcome. If you provide it to them as a gift, And if they accept it, fantastic. If they don't, perhaps the timing wasn't right. There could be a bunch of other things, and hopefully you get an opportunity to find out why. But if you present it as a gift, you let go of the outcome, and now you don't have this anxious energy. I used to work with somebody in a cubicle next to me, and he would say to them at the end of his call, if you buy this product from me now, I will pay for your sales tax. And it sounded, as he was saying it, very pushy, but very anxious on his part. And he did not close very many sales. So it's that energy of just letting go. You did what you could. You provided this gift of your service, your product. You laid it in a way where they felt like you were emotionally connecting. And if they didn't take it, you thank them and you move on and you learn something from it, but you move on. When we have this idea of, oh my God, I've got to close this, they can sense it and they can understand that this isn't what's in it for them necessarily. It's you're focusing on what's in it for you.
Yeah. And as I'm listening to you, one of the things I think that happens is we also put blame on ourselves. Let's use your example. You're looking for a car for your daughter. Now, you may already have a particular type of car, brand of car, price point. You may have set expectations of what you're looking for. And generally, you went into that dealership because you felt like they might have what you need. But at the end of the day, you might still be shopping. Maybe that's what you think you want, but you're open-minded enough to know that you don't know enough about this product or any other. And you want to maybe check out 4 dealerships with 4 different brands because you want to understand more which one is going to be the best fit for you. Now, that salesperson knows you're going to buy a car. You have a need, you're going to invest in it. And that's just a matter of which one. Now, if they don't sell it to you, they're going to think to themselves, I failed. I didn't sell hard enough or I didn't present it well enough. But the reality is their product might not have what you're looking for. If safety is the priority for you and your daughter, their car might not be the highest rated safety car, and there's nothing they can do to change that. And so your decision is not going to go their way. You kind of have to give yourself some grace and say, it has to be the right thing at the right time. And you have to look at it as a relationship to kind of figure out, am I able to meet their needs? If I'm not, then it's okay. They need to go get what is necessary for them, and I need to move on. Somebody else will need what I have.
That is exactly it. And I'd like to add another thing, that nowadays consumers are so savvy that they are doing their homework online. They have researched every possible product that's out there, the need that they're looking for. But if you could be that salesperson on the other end that is seen as the trusted advisor, had someone said to me, okay, that's not the right car now, but can I get your information and I can do some research? They can pull cars from different lots, from different areas, because I was looking for a used car. It doesn't have to be their particular brand. Then I could have been persuaded to maybe wait a little bit longer and say, yeah, I don't want to buy something just yet. It needs to have this feature and this feature. But if I'm seeing them as the person to do that back end work for me and I could let go of now having to visit 4 or 5 other dealers, then I could have been persuaded.
Yeah. So then the value that you're expressing right now is that you wanted somebody to be that advisor, to be the person to step outside of the box and say, look, I normally do my transactions this way, but I can see you need some help. I'm willing to do these things for you. Let me look into it. Based on the information you shared with me, I'd be happy to get back to you. I don't know all the answers, but I'll find out. And now that created that trust, that connection, that appreciation from you because you know they're doing something extra for you.
Yes. And the dealer we ended up going with pulled up the Carfax for a car that, I'm not kidding you, as we're sitting there talking about getting this car for my daughter, someone bought it online. And I knew it wasn't meant to be because I'm not about rushing to get something just because it's sitting on someone's lot. Well, I brought that to the other person's attention at another dealer, and I said, why is there a $2,000 difference here? He pulled up the Carfax, and he said, well, the Carfax shows this, this, and this. I would never have bought this car, but because even though it had like 40,000 miles in it, they never brought it in to get serviced. Now, the first person brought up the Carfax, and it looked to me that all the things were lined up. That was not the case. When the second guy brought it up, he goes, yeah, they got an oil change, but that was it. They didn't do the 20 and the 40,000 mile maintenance that it needed. So he opened my eyes and I thought, thank God I did not buy the car from that other place. Here I am thinking I was looking at the right place or asking the right questions and looking at the right information, and I clearly was not. So that's the person that won our business.
Yeah, because they're basically discovering things that you never even considered before. And that leads you to believe that they care. I mean, somebody who goes out of their way to do that has good intentions, I believe, right? Because otherwise they would have just moved on. So that's really the message. That's the true essence of persuasion, not that negative connotation that we have of a used car salesman that we thought of in the past, where they're just trying to tell you what you need and convince you that whether or not you need it, they're going to sell it to you. That's kind of what we have in our mind when we think about that word, but it's a completely different definition based on what we just talked about.
Yeah. And the words that you're saying to someone, let's call that the data channel, right? That's the left brain, our analytical brain. You obviously need to know those things, right? What they're telling you, you need to know these things. But let's call the right side of our brain the PQ channel. That's where the energy and the emotion, right? You're there to help me. That's when, if you put those two together, then that's where you say, that's who I'm going to give my business to.
100%. And you know, I even sometimes sense it from people that reach out to me for help. I do a lot of consulting. And so when I'm talking to somebody to listen to what their needs are, they don't make a decision right away. Sometimes they walk away and it could be a while. And when I see them again, the first thing they say is, thank you for your time. I just want you to know I'm going to call you. I appreciate everything. And I just want you to know that it'll happen eventually. It's almost like they're feeling sorry for taking time to talk to me. And my answer is always the same. I'm here when you need me. And if you have any more questions, I'd be happy to provide them to you. But it's not about me. It's about you. When it's right for you, if you do need it, if it all sounds wonderful, I would be happy and honored to be that person. And that's really what it's about. And sometimes I feel the consumers even feel guilty for making a different decision. But at the end of the day, we all have to go where we're comfortable. And it's not necessarily because we don't like somebody. It's just not the right time. It's not the right product, whatever the situation. But they will appreciate how you made them feel. They will appreciate that you can be trusted. And when the time is right, even if they never buy from you, they'll likely tell other people about you. And it all works out in the end.
Yes, I agree with you 100%.
And that's really what we're trying to share with our listeners today. As you and I know, it's one thing to hear what is involved in the framework. It's another to apply it because it takes practice. It doesn't happen automatically for a lot of us. It can, but for most of us, we have to kind of put it into practice and work at it. And then eventually it's like it'll click. So it's just know about it and then work towards getting really good at it, but with the intention of being of service, really caring about the other person, treating others the way you want to be treated. It all comes together and it comes across. And when it does, everything just falls into place.
Yeah, and making them part of the process on top of it, right? Because you could use this with your teenagers. You can use this with a family member. You can use this with a colleague that you want them to jump on to help you with your project, right? So if you're persuading, you're inspiring, you're trying to get someone to do what you want to do, you're selling yourself, but you can also make this as part of a connection to both get to what you both need together.
Exactly. Oh my gosh, it's a total win-win. That's what I love about it. I think it's just phenomenal. And it starts with this awareness. And that's why I really was excited to have you on the podcast to talk about it, because I think a lot of people need to hear what you just shared. So Ivette, how do they get a hold of you and learn more about what you do?
You can reach me at iFlowersolutions.com. That's my website. And you can have a free coaching session with me to kind of see what your blind spots are. And I call it the competitive edge. And you can find the link in the notes and we can connect and just have a conversation.
I can't thank you enough for being here, Ivette, and sharing this with us. That's the whole purpose of the podcast, is for everybody to walk away just a little bit better, a little bit more aware of things that we can do to improve everything around us. And you have really shared some valuable insights that I think are going to be helpful for all of us. And I enjoyed it very much. Thank you for being here.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thank you.
That's a wrap for this episode of Live Blissed Out. Thanks to Ivette Gonzalez Flower for joining us, and thanks for listening. If you have a question or comment for a future episode, all you have to do is go to speakpipe.com/LBOVM or click the link in the show notes to leave a brief audio message. If you find value in our show, please visit liveblисsedout.com to reach out, subscribe, and share on social media. This show is made possible through listeners like you. Thank you. So long for now, and remember to keep moving forward.